Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Ultimate Affiliate Marketing. I am your host, as always. It's Paul Motley here. And today I have a really good special guest. I've just been having a chat with him. We're having a great time. And hopefully he's going to bring some value to you guys as well. Joe, it's Joe Detre, everybody. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, I'm doing great. You know, we're in the middle of traveling back from Washington, D.C., heading back to my hometown, San Antonio, Texas. We're right here in wonderful St. Louis, Missouri. And thank you, Paul. I appreciate you bringing me on.
That's cool, man. St. Louis, I've heard a lot about it. Have you managed to get out there at all? Or is it just like, don't go out at this time or what?
Oh, no. It's actually beautiful weather. Fall's in and the leaves are changing. We have family here too. So it's always a good pit stop on the way back to Texas to visit family and just enjoy the time.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I get that. Sometimes you've got to, stand back and smell the roses a little bit, and especially when you're traveling as well, because we can travel for hours and we just, whether we're on the interstate or on motorways or anything else, these big solid concrete blocks that we, fly our vehicles down. And you kind of, if you're driving, you don't really notice all the scenery, but if you're in a passenger seat, you get to see a little bit. But then if you off, went off the op ramp, you'd see lots of beautiful places around. But I think it's sometimes the way in business, we get so attracted to one thing or one goal. We forget to look at all the good stuff along the way. We forget the journey. Don't we? So anyway, man, let me ask you, and especially for those listeners that don't know you as well, just give me the whole elevator pitch. What do you do and how long you've been doing it for?
Well, look, let's put it this way. I just retired out of the military for 23 years in military service in the U.S. Army. And through my work and what I've done in the military, you learn something about leadership, and that's what I do. I help entrepreneurs develop better skills to lead their life and their business to go to the next level, and that's what I do. And I do that, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today about how I do that in my coaching business, and I talk about this on my podcast as well, which is the Joe on the Mic Leader Talk, which is my podcast. And we give out, tips, strategies, different things from different perspectives. I've had people that started out their business doing tow trucking to UN ambassadors, military leaders, and that's what I enjoy doing. And that's what I coach. I coach leadership strategies. I talk about vision, evaluation, building your plan for the year. How to start sharing, networking. That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit here, because I go more into the art of leadership. A lot of people talk about the tactics and technical side. How you evaluate somebody, how you do this, how you do that, how you build policies and everything. No, but I talk about the art of leadership, and that's where the rubber meets the road. And we're talking about traveling.
Oh yeah,
that's where the rubber meets the road in the art of leadership.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's awesome. I'm excited to hear about this because this is probably really new. This is super new to me as well because you probably guessed already from our little chat. My brain goes at like 600 miles an hour some days, and although I have goals in my head that I think I want to get to, then I try and split those up. And I found that I'm most effective when I write lists out. So if I write a list. Then yes. I've got something to work to, and I try as I might. I'd love to be able to do that every day, and I know I should write a little list there. It's this whole thing. We tell people what to do all the time, but then we're guilty of not following our own instructions sometimes. But that's just the way it is. So tell me how it gets all broke down. So where do you start with someone, and how do you move on with it?
Well, this is how I always begin. I have a 5 framework placement of how we do things. First, I always talk to people about mindset when it comes to leadership, because like you said, we can be scattered about all kinds of different things, but our mindset has to be singular and focused at times to go towards our goals. Now with leaders, let's put it this way, there's a leader within all of us, because I know John Maxwell, he loves to say this, leadership is influence, right? But I've always said in my military career, when I talk to the lowest guy on the totem pole who's a private, barely came into the military, doesn't know a thing about anything. And he's always looking to me as a leader. And I'm like, that's great. Yes, I am a leader. I am leading you. But don't forget, you have influence as well. You're a leader. Even though you're a private in the military, you're still a leader. To take on that leadership mindset right now, anything that we do, somebody's watching us, right? So the mindset has to be, all right, I want to achieve. I can achieve, but also, and it's not something to, let's say, to make yourself feel self-conscious, but there's always somebody watching.
Oh yeah, we know
And
that.
with that, oh yeah, and with that mindset, it's just like here's another statement. We say, people don't do as we say, they do as what we see. What we see, we emulate. You can tell me to do whatever you want to do, but I'm gonna see what you're doing, actually doing, and I'm gonna follow what your example is. So the mindset is, all right, you're a leader. Get that straight in your mind. Whether you like it or not, you're a leader. People are following you. Like, I like your podcast because you're stepping out and talking about affiliate marketing. And you're like, look, I'm gonna take this role and I'm gonna be a leader in this area in affiliate marketing. And I was listening to some of your podcasts, and one of the things that leaders do is that they take the lead, they take the risk, put themselves out there and say, look, these are my successes, these are my losses. And if I can have successes, you can too.
Yeah.
So the mindset is, hey, get all that clutter out of your mind about you can't be a leader. You're already leading, whether you know it or not. So take ownership in it. Move forward. Take those little steps and be a leader. Especially be a leader that you would want to follow. That's where it all begins. So now that we get that mindset, and it goes a little bit more deeper into it, we start talking about how people had their culture and their culture that they grew up in, how families integrate things into children's lives about, oh, well, you know, we're a certain type of class of people. We don't go and make millions of dollars. Well, that's a mindset. That's a mindset. Because I grew up in a family of people working in the fields, working in nurseries, cutting down sugar cane, picking crops and stuff like that. So it wasn't their fault. That's just how they grew up. But when I started growing up in the United States, when I was younger, I had a mindset that, well, the farthest I'll ever achieve is to be a mechanic. Maybe. Nothing wrong with being a mechanic. But my mindset wasn't going beyond that. So that's why I tell people, all right, you're in business. All right, you're in business. You want to make a widget. All right, yeah, I just want to make $100,000 worth of widgets a year, da, da, da. Okay, that's a good goal. But once you make that $100,000 worth of widgets, you need to go beyond that. Think a bigger scale. How else can you help people? When you make those $100,000 worth of widgets, how many people can you hire? How many people can you help along the way? All right, so mindset. We talk about mindset. In this next subject that I talk about. Yeah.
I like that, man.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hover on that one there a second, because that's just like triggered a few things. I mean, going back into when I was getting started and, you know, working for myself and all that sort of thing. I actually worked here in a company with my father, who was he was an ex-policeman, and there's a couple of things there. I'm not saying anything against him because I respect him. He's the most you know, he's been my solid light my whole life. And I remember he got to a certain point in his career where he could have gone for higher up opportunities, but knew that would be, I think he was at a stage where he was a sergeant, but he wanted to stay local. It suited his lifestyle to kind of stay where he was. But then when we started working for this other company, and I recognized very quickly that we could do exceptionally well if we branched off and worked for ourselves. But he, again, was, you know, oh no, we're all right. We're okay with this. Long story short, he moved to the States, and within a year, I'd set up on my own and started tripling my income. So it was kind of like, I knew the stage to go there. And like you said there, I was able to provide for a better service and a better quality of product for people. So in my way, I was helping people because they were getting not just a better price, they were getting better quality and a better product. And I was able to reach more people. So that's in like a real world situation. And my goal was always to get it to a point where we could sell the business and then I could move on to something else. And that was where I went to. But yeah, it's interesting when you say about there's nothing wrong with being a mechanic. Totally. Absolutely. You know, without these guys, you know, when my car breaks down, who am I going to call? You know, so it's simple and honest as that. And there are certain people which are more than happy with what they have in life and they go through their life in a happy state. And I understand that totally. There are those other people which might say, well, I'm a mechanic now, but one day I want to own my own shop, you know, so they are going slightly up there. But so I didn't mean to interrupt that. It was just started firing off stuff in my brain and just, you know, getting memories out there. So it's cool.
No, brother, if you got something, I love feedback. I love going back and forth, doing the rapport. But the next part that I always talk to people about is forgiveness. Now, forgiveness might not be a big deal to most people, and people like forgiveness. What do you mean by that? And because I'm a faith-based person, I'm a Christian, and I experienced forgiveness at a young age. But young, I was 21 years old, and when I realized that there was a God that can forgive me, and you know, like I said, I'm a Christian, so this is part of what I do. But forgiveness for a business person or a leader is a big deal. Is a big deal, and a lot of people don't get it. I always give this story. I went to a John Maxwell conference, and I'll just say the guy that I was talking to in our group, we'll just call him John. We'll just call him John Doe. I don't want to give out his name. And we were all excited in the conference. We're like, yeah, this is awesome. We're getting pumped up. We're learning a lot of good things about coaching, a lot of good things about speaking to big crowds, and tactical things about our business and how we can implement in our life. But John Doe, he was kind of like, I can't go forward. I can't go forward in my business. He ran a couple of grocery stores, and he wanted to expand, but he's like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. And we kept probing him, like, brother, what's going on? And then he started spilling out. Well, you know, I tried to do a business partnership with this person. It took me for thousands of dollars. I tried to get a couple other people to come with me, and they robbed me, and this and that, and this and that. And he was holding on. I mean, and rightfully so, he should be upset that somebody robbed him of thousands of dollars of money, kind of sullied his name in a bad business deal. I understand it, I get it. But he didn't want to go to the next level of his business or get more investors to invest in his business to expand, because he was still holding on to what somebody did to him.
Yeah.
And we're like, brother, you gotta, and I said, we understand. You know, I've had people hurt me in the past, been passed over for promotions and other things like that because of little shady business deals. But you know what? I had to forgive, not forget, but forgive that person, because that person is whoever hurt you, they're already going on with their life. You know what I'm saying? They're already gone. They're happy, frolicking, and you're stewing in hurt. You're stewing in I shoulda, coulda, woulda. But that person, they're probably already making thousands of dollars, moving on with their business, and you're still stuck where you're at.
Yeah.
It's like I give this picture. I gave a training a couple months ago. I had a little illustration up of a guy holding like 3 big boxes in his hand. We've all done this before. We've helped people out, you know, moving, you know, from one house to another. And then you got those boxes in front of you, and you're trying to like peek around the boxes so you don't trip over in the stairs or hit somebody else or hit something. And that's why I show us that forgiveness is just like unforgiveness is just like that. You're holding boxes in front of you. You got to wait, you got to load, and you can't maneuver in life properly because you're always peeking around that those things that you're holding up in front of you of unforgiveness.
Yeah.
So, and it's mind-boggling. And I asked him, I said, look, what's holding you back? Why aren't you going forward? And for me, we were real estate investing back in 2000, between 2005 and 2008. We were rocking and rolling. We were flipping houses, and I love flipping houses. It's the most fun. For me, it's fun. You know, finding a house that that's run down, you can turn it around, invest in it, flip it, and then sell it to somebody who needs a house.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a very fulfilling thing. But in that process, we had a lot of rental properties as well, and we started getting taken advantage of by some people. They were owing us thousands and thousands of dollars, and we had to go declare bankruptcy. And it wasn't a fun deal. It wasn't a fun deal, but we learned from it, you know. And right now, I'm going to the second part of forgiveness, is forgiving yourself. I had to forgive myself for me to move forward, to go back into real estate, to take chances of the mistakes that I made in the past, of those people that took advantage of me, and say, all right, I made those mistakes. I'm not going to beat myself up anymore. I'm going to go forward, forgive myself, and take a chance and learn from the mistakes and move forward. And now we're slowly getting back into real estate. We're sharpening our real estate investing tools to get back into flipping houses, possibly doing, you know, home purchase of a house, maybe turn it into a B&B and stuff like that. So this is a real entrepreneurial talk.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I talk to people about forgiveness, because it's, if you really dig deep into it, and for moving forward in your business or whatever you do in life with relationships, forgiveness is a big key. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get you. And this is, you know, it drives it down to the core. A lot of these things I don't think about because I'm great at burying stuff, right? If you went out into our yard right now, you would see all the stuff that I've buried over the years, probably just emotionally and physically just buried it. And, you know, you carry around these burdens, and it can be manifesting with stress in your back, or it can manifest in headaches, or it can manifest in feeling lethargic or unmotivated, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And what you're saying to me there about trying to move around the boxes and all that stuff, it just makes so much sense just to hear it, because forgiving yourself as well, because that's the thing. I mean, I was having a right now go through some problems within our family, and one of which is like problems with a couple of my kids. And my partner was talking to me about it, and she goes, you know, it's not your fault. And I've been walking around carrying this burden within me for a while, and kind of thinking, is, you know, taking everything on. But, you know, she's great sometimes, because she comes in and she goes, do you know what? And we talk about it for a little while, and then she goes, well, this isn't your fault, so you shouldn't feel, you know, bad about that. Okay, you can feel bad about the situation, but don't feel like it's your fault. And you know, that is like a quick snap of the fingers jolt. I feel better about myself, because, you know, you walk around and you see these situations and you think, oh man, this is shocking, this is awful, I wish it wasn't like this. But when you realize sometimes it's not your fault, or if you have done something and it is your fault, then, you know, you're trying to, the only way to move on really is to accept responsibility and try and forgive yourself for putting yourself in that position in the first place, and then moving on as well. So yeah, I'm having a great session, man.
No, it's good, because, man, it's also a part of mindset, but I separate it because it can go deep. Forgiveness can go deep. Oh, yeah. And what I tell people too, as a exercise, as I do the burning the ships exercise. I don't know if you heard of that term before, where I can't remember what empire it was, but some point in history there were conquerors. They would go to certain lands via ship, and they would have everybody, all right, go on land, we're prepared to attack, and then they burned the ships, so there was no room for retreat. So they can't get on board. Hey, I'm out of here, brother. I'm not attacking these people. These people are crazy. It's just either go forward or that's it.
Yeah.
But I have an exercise where I tell people, all right, get a piece of paper and you're going to write down all these things that you can remember that you need to forgive, whether it's a person, a decision, or whatever it is. Just write it down. I need to forgive so-and-so, or I need to forgive myself for making that bad decision. You write it down, and then then after that, you just look it over and you scratch it out. Just scratch it out. You're saying, I'm burning the ships. I'm burning the ships. I'm not letting this have power over me anymore, because it's all about power. You're giving that situation, that person, or whatever that thing is that's holding you back, power that you need to be more creative, to invest more time in your family members, to invest more time in your business. So that's why I say forgiveness is a big deal. And that's the second part. But the next part is evaluation. I love evaluation too, because in the military, we always do evaluations. Anytime we have an exercise or a training event, or we have some sort of movement going from here to there, there's always an evaluation at the end. And I've seen it in business, how it's a vital tool for any leader. Even with families, you take a vacation somewhere, do an evaluation at the end of it. Evaluation doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's like sitting down with your kids, sitting down with your relatives. It's like, man, we just went to the Grand Canyon. We're planning on going to the Grand Canyon. We just went to the Grand Canyon. We took this trip. We stayed at this hotel. We took all these pictures. We went down on the donkeys down to the bottom and came back up. You know, what are some of the things that you guys enjoyed? That's an evaluation. Yeah. But then again, it's not like you're doing something formal. It could be informal. But like John Maxwell says, you can have an experience, but an experience without evaluation is just an experience. You don't learn nothing from it. You learn nothing from it unless you sit there and evaluate it. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything about it. You take the good things, replicate them. The bad things, you learn from it, say, all right, we're not going to do that again, and move forward. And people say, well, yeah, we had an evaluation, we talked about it, and that was it. I was like, whoa. I said, yeah, you could talk about it, but did you write it down? Did you make notes? Did you make a checklist, like you said earlier, a checklist? Yeah. And that's what we're famous for in the military, is making checklists for everything. Anytime before we move out to anywhere, we have a checklist. And they're handy. They're so handy. It's just taking the time to create a checklist. And like my wife and I on a trip, we made a checklist a while back. We kind of abandoned it because we got kind of like in a rhythm of what we know to do. But evaluate. Take time to sit back and say, all right, we did our affiliate program. We launched it. Like you said, you got 1,000. I think you said 3,000 some leads. You posted it on your Facebook. You did an evaluation. Yeah, that's a form of evaluation. Say, look, we launched it. We got this much feedback. What were the good things about it? Do we need to fix our content on it a little bit? Rearrange some words so it's more jazzy, more colorful. It makes sense. It impacts our readers. And then we go to the next level. So evaluation is key. And sometimes I tell people, like, oh, when should I do evaluations? Okay, well, in the military, we did annual evaluations every year. We did quarterly and we did monthly. And then there's always that unscheduled event. Like on the way over here, we were traveling from Washington, D.C. to St. Louis. And all of a sudden, my light on my car started going off for low tires. And I was like, oh man, I don't need to have this. We're like on a big long stretch of road here in between truck stops and everything else like that. I don't know what I'm going to do. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, all right, we were in a place that was 80 degrees. The temperature dropped because we crossed from West Virginia into Pennsylvania. The temperature dropped to 55 degrees. So I started thinking about it like, well, evaluating in my head from past experience, It was probably because the temperature dropped, so the pressure in the tires went low.
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait a minute, but we're traveling through a construction zone. It's like, oh man. So there's like a lot of different things going on. I said, we're going through a construction zone. Construction, you know how it is. Nails and things go flying all over the place. So evaluation is good. It gives us a good reference point to go forth. And then I was like, all right, if it's a tire, I'll do this. If it's just air pressure, I'll just do this. It gives us courses of action.
Yeah.
So evaluation is a key tool in anybody's tool book, whether it's a family or in your business as an entrepreneur. So.
No, I totally get that, man. And that's particularly important. I don't know if you heard the dog barking in a second ago. I had to hit the pause on the mute button on my mic because I thought, oh man, this is the thing when you're doing this, right? You know, and a lot of the time, and those people that are listening, I tend to record in the garage, right? It's because no one ever goes in the garage, right? And it's always later on.
Life.
It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and everyone else is doing their own thing in the house. And very occasionally, I'll get a phone call from the missus. Where are you? Right in the middle of the recording, which stops the recording. And if I'm not careful, I can lose it. So it's all good stuff. But life gets in the way, doesn't it? Like these things that you say. But what I was going back to was, if people have been listening to the podcast for the last couple of weeks, they'll have noticed that experiment that I was running. I just said, okay, right, well, this is what I've been learning about. I'm going to implement it myself, and then I'm going to try and master it, and then I'm going to teach it. And that's the point where I'm at now. And one of the things that went wrong was that I actually had my Facebook business page locked from sending messages out because I was getting so many leads getting into like ManyChat, and I was doing the whole thing where you've got to contact people within the first 24 hours. So I had 3 automation messages sending out, and it went from having no messages to like 300 a day. And of course, Facebook went, oh no, we're not doing that. And they closed it. So I had to immediately shift and put it on to send people from the ad somewhere else where it wasn't ManyChat. So I've been chatting with Facebook today about getting that lifted, because obviously I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm just delivering the information.
Yeah.
But it does give me that thing. It's that evaluation that you were talking about there, thinking, right, okay, maybe 3 messages in the first 24 hours was too many, especially considering how many people came through, like 150 people in the first day, another 150 in the second day. And it would have been even greater than that, because I've been getting like 400 to 500 leads a day since then anyway. So, you know, you got to be careful with these things.
Yeah.
Facebook particularly just hates overactivity. If you message,
yeah, you don't want to go on Facebook, Joe.
oh yeah. If you message 50 people a day, suddenly you get put in Facebook jail for a couple of days. Simple as that. But if you are doing it gradually, you know, I'm learning all the time what I could do to get by that problem or that AI flag that came up next time.
Yeah.
Maybe reduce the amount of ad spend, so I'm not getting so many leads a day. So it does getting used to it and think, okay, well, this guy's getting a couple of 100 people running through his messenger bot each day, and that's the normal for him. You know, it's very much like sometimes you might get something pop up from your bank. You might get a text or a phone call from their fraud department if you've made a purchase which is outside of their avatar of your regular purchases. It's there built to protect us. But you know, it's different from the norm. So yeah, going back to the evaluation thing, it's great because you've got to keep measuring, you've got to keep testing and seeing and learning from your mistakes as well. You know, you thrive on your successes, but you learn from your mistakes.
Exactly.
This is awesome.
So the last two things, I don't want to take too much of your time and your audience's time, but the last 2 things is invest and then share. So I'll talk about invest first. So leaders and even family members invest, I call it direct connection. It's not investing like financially, it's investing in yourself, investing in your business, investing in your family. And the reason why I call it direct connection, because your personal is you, right? Your business is an extension of yourself, and your family is definitely a close extension of yourself. So that's the direct connection. And I see a lot of people, as I was coming up through through the ranks in the military, even in personal, when I was an entrepreneur, doing real estate investing, dealing with other entrepreneurs, that they would, let me give an example. I was helping this guy because I was trying to learn how to do a car wash. I wanted to be a detail car wash business. I wanted to do that on the side. So as I was working at the TSA, I was also helping this guy run his detail shop for washing cars, trucks, RVs, everything. But that's all he singular focused on. He didn't focus on how to market that business. So he didn't do any self-development about, hey, how can I grow my detailing business? Because he did a great job. He did a fantastic job with the people that he knew. He could take an SUV, make that thing so clean you can eat off the floor and not have to worry about anything. So he knew his job, but that's all he focused on. So he didn't go say, hey, look, how can I market this business? Maybe do some affiliate marketing like you advertise. Maybe so other people can advertise for me for my business. However that can happen. And he didn't do enough self-development. Like I say, he did a great job, but he didn't do enough self-development to go to the next level. And that's also a part of business growth. Now, personal growth, I talk to business leaders and leaders in general about, look, what are you doing to develop yourself personally? What books are you reading? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you listening to YouTube? Whatever is out there, audiobooks to grow yourself daily. There's someone that talks about that 1%. Just doing that 1% of change every day, growing yourself, learning, expedites growth in your life, whether it's a 1% or not, because as you learn, you share, or you should. And I want to talk about that in the sharing part. And then with your family growth, as you grow as a leader, what does it say? It says, a rising tide lifts all boats. As you grow as a leader, guess what? You're going to pass that down to your children, or you're going to pass that on to your nieces and nephews, your grandchildren. And as they see you grow, it's going to inspire them to grow as well. And I'm going to put this out there, and it's like you said, I talked about my family that, they worked in the fields. They came from Puerto Rico. Some of my family came from Haiti and other things. And they knew one thing. They knew that they can only go so far. But when you expand yourself, and that's what I love about being in the United States, is that someone that's homeless in a couple of months or a year can be a millionaire. But they just got to change their mindset, like we talked about earlier, but then self-development. There are so many free tools in the United States. You can go to the library. Yeah. I know a lot, kind of libraries are kind of obsolete, but they're still there. Yeah. And there's still sources of great information to learn, grow, and then go to the next level in life. We were listening to this lady on Facebook the other day, and she was talking about how she became successful on Instagram. And she was living in her car. Yeah. She was living in her car. And then she said, look, I saw something on Instagram, and she was like, you know what? I can do this. And now she's making 6 figures a month. That's or 6 figures a year, excuse me. Yeah. So it's out there. So personal growth in yourself can translate investment into your business, your personal growth, and family growth. And out of that, you build a legacy. And that's what I talk about investing, because your biggest investment is your family, is the people around you. In my opinion, some people don't think so, but going to the business part of the investment, the people that work for you are an investment as well, if you treat them as such. And I'm not going to go too deep into that, but if you treat your people badly, guess what's going to happen to your business? You're going to have your cousin. Yeah. It's not going to go well. Your customer relations are going to go bad. And I can't remember the terminology for it, but in business, supply chain. It's called the supply chain of excellence. And it talks about the last thing that goes down the line after you fix all the tiers up above with your employees, your middle management, dealing with your leadership, it turns into customer satisfaction. And when you treat your people like investments, guess what? It's going to translate to the interaction with your customers and clients.
Yeah,
But
I get that. I
it's
mean,
a big deal.
ultimately, the way I look at it is like any business is only as good as their weakest link. So, if you continually trying to, and I love that analogy of trying to improve yourself each day almost by 1%, because that can compound up, can't it? So, and that can deliver fantastic growth. And that story that you said about the Instagram, when you actually think about it, Instagram is, I mean, without all the whiz bang editing stuff like that, it's essentially taking photos and put it on the internet. And you just think, this is the world we live in, where the opportunities are all around us, and we just need to focus on something that, suits our lifestyle and what we do.
Mm-hmm. So the last piece is I call it share. Leaders need to know how to share. Now, it was originally called networking, but I said, you know what, networking, that one, for me and for other people, networking kind of had like a negative connotation to it. So I was like, look, you know what, I'm gonna call it share, because this is the way I feel about it. And I call it sharing the external connection. It's significant because when we go to network with people, people tend to like, all right, I got my business cards ready, and I'm gonna start throwing them around like Chinese stars and just start hitting everybody up in the head. People are getting paper cuts left and right. It's a madness. But if you go in there with the mindset of, I'm gonna share what I do and say, look, this is what I do. How can I help you? Total different mindset. Instead of I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna tear it up with this stuff, and I'm gonna just say how great I am. Go in there with a sharing mindset. Say, look, I'm here. My name is Joe Detre. I coach leaders to be better leaders, to be the leader that they want to follow themselves. How can I help you make your business do great and wonderful things? Oh, well, you know what? We might need somebody to come and talk to our folks about leadership. Would you like to come and share? I would love to come and share. Coming with the mindset of, what can I give to you? How can I share with you some value with your people, with your audience, with your customers? Even if it's a freebie. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he talked about being generous and sharing. And he said that there was a tool company that made tools for him. I can't remember the name of the company. And I wish I wrote it down. It was a great story. But he said that he wanted to reward the tool company for all their excellent business that they gave to them for making the tools that they made. So he sent them, I think it was like a whole bunch of gift cards for Christmas one time. And he said it was like $5,000 worth of gift cards. And he said, yeah, you know what? We're just going to say thank you for these guys, because they constantly been on the ball. Whenever we had orders, they were on time. They deliver great customer service. So we're going to give them $5,000 worth of gift cards. He wasn't expecting anything in return. All of a sudden, he said they got $50,000 in referrals, because that company was so grateful that they actually generated leads for them through word of mouth. Say, hey man, these people are so great. They just gave us $5,000 in gift cards to show appreciation. And they were just started hyping them up.
Yeah, that's great.
And he's like, wow. Yeah. I was like, that's a big return on investment.
Yeah,
and I'm not
that's not bad. I mean, that goes into like stuff like appreciation marketing and stuff like that. It's being generous comes around in big ways. And I get told off for this, but I tip quite heavily whenever I go out. And because my mindset is something that I learned, I think, from, it was either Jim Rohn or Brian Tracy. And it was talking about, always tip well, because the next time you go back to that restaurant or service, wherever you're going to, you can get treated like kings because you're appreciating their good service, hence why they got the tip in the first place, because ultimately you're not just going to tip if it's awful. But the experiences that I've had going through, the last 20, 25 years by doing that, it makes a massive difference. You know, I sometimes get, I mean, going back to my early years, I used to get drinks poured for me as I walked in the door, you know, things like that. Even just put on the end of the bar if they were busy, and it would just suddenly appear on the end, and I would just go and collect it, and then I'd go back up and pay for it when they would calm down a bit. Things like that, to getting a table, to being able to get slotted in, to always having happy, smiley servers and waiters and waitresses and stuff. So you know, that giving just, you know, you start with a tiny little bit that you can affect around you, and
Definitely.
then push it forward into your own business as well. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and the two more pieces before I'm done and I stop talking. With the sharing, there's a networking, but there's also, and I push this a lot. I call it the power of proximity. We probably heard it from Tony Robbins. The power of proximity by volunteering, associations, maybe meetups, and charities. And this is what I say. This is what I mean about that. I know from personal experience, when my wife and I went through that bankruptcy, the power of charities. You might say, well, you know, charities, they're good for helping out, but when you are helped by a charity because you're so low in your life that you can't pay the bills, and you have to go to a food kitchen to get money, you understand the importance of a charity like that. Because we had, you know, and it was a learning experience. At that time, I was like, I am so embarrassed. I never thought I would be in this situation, but we went to the charity, and those people were so wonderful that they gave us food so we can eat, just to eat. You know, whether it was just small pieces of chicken, bologna, whatever it is, it was food, and we were happy and so thankful they were there. So I always tell leaders and businesses, if you can, choose a charity. It doesn't have to be a food pantry. Choose a charity to give to. Make an impact socially. That's also a part of sharing, and that's why I call it external connection, because it's beyond your business. It's not necessarily your business. It's not necessarily directly linked to what you do, but impacting your community around you. How can you help out? And I call it power of proximity because I was also volunteering. I also volunteered with this organization. It's called the Swamp Apes. It's a veterans organization. And if anybody looks up Swamp Apes, Joe Detre on Google or the internet, whatever, you'll find me in there. It's an organization that helps veterans with PTSD. And what we did, because I'm in Texas, they're in Florida, is we go into the Everglades and we hunt pythons. Well, we look for pythons. You can't say hunt. So we look for pythons, and we get them out of the ecosystem. Now, when I volunteered for that, I didn't understand the other impacts of that. I was just like, look, I want to help people out with PTSD, so I'm a volunteer. I'm a military veteran, so I'll help out other veterans with PTSD. So the whole point of it was that when they go out there, they get out in the wilderness, get those pythons, and they forget about all the things that was going on with their PTSD, and it works. It works. There's guys that went out there, they were alcoholics, and after a couple of rounds of going out there, jumping on those big snakes and getting that excitement back in their life, getting the joy back in their life just by catching something, a couple of guys, they stopped drinking. They were like, no more drinking. They were able to have a stable job and live life normally. But the reason why I say power of proximity, because you don't know where that giving to that charity, where that volunteering is going to happen. Because I didn't know that during that process, I was going to be in close proximation to governors of states. I was going to be riding in the back of a truck with a senator. I didn't know I was going to meet Mike Rowe, a TV star, that he does Returning the Favor and Dirty Jobs fame. So when you do those things, you never know who you might meet. And then you have a connection with somebody who might help you later on in life and business. And that's why I say it's very important to not discount networking, but I call it sharing, and if with a charity, with a volunteer group, organizations and PDs. So those are the 5 things that I go over with leaders, and it's not everything, but those are the 5 main things that I talk to them about. Say, look, if you can get these things down in your leadership, in your life, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, father, mother, whatever, you're gonna be on a good foundation for everything else to springboard off of. But that's what I wanted to share.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, I've just checked the time. We've been going like nearly an hour, and it's just literally flown by. Just probably because, I don't know, it's just when it comes to mindset, a lot of people just forget about that. They just get really bogged down with the technicals, linking this, that, and that to this and that to that, and never really standing back and looking at themselves and everything else that you've gone through. So it's been amazing, man. I'm so pleased you came on. So pleased you took the time, and it's been an absolute blast, man. Joe, I'm going to say once again, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, and my honor.